Tamlin Thor was born in Elmont's Field, a village located in the Two Rivers region of Andor. This was the 940th year of the new era, capping off a decade of unrest following the rising power of the White Cloaks. We know nothing of his parents, but we can assume that his early life followed the typical route for a Two Rivers born child: sheep herding, working on the farm and in the tobacco fields, interspersed with hunting of rabbits and daring adventures in the woods if one was so inclined. Most people are satisfied with that. The distant mountains, the forests, and the tight-knit village community make for an idyllic life. But I sense that Tam was unsatisfied by this. As a youth, at 17, he ran away, going out into the wild, looking for something. It's the same thing that drives us from the small towns to the cities, that sense that the world is bigger than us. Perspective, maybe, or anonymity, something or a place where we have real stakes, a place where it seems we matter. We can assume that the village council and the women's circle, led by Wisdom Doral Baran, freaked out, but they were unable to recover him. At this point, it's all assumption on our side. He likely went through Taren Ferry, on to White Bridge, and then, he would have undergone the typical period of amazement at the vastness of these towns. Eventually, after the inevitable adventures, he came to Ilian, and there he signed up for its army. It seems as though this was his intention all along. Young boys always dream of the supposed glories of war. Even in the remote Two Rivers, there would have been rumors of Pedro Nail and the White Cloaks. This Lord Captain Commander sought to bring further glory to the White Cloaks and had led them in an invasion of Altara. Recognizing the dangers to their own lands, Ilian and Marandi had allied with Altara to oppose the White Cloak cause. This was Tam's first battle, but not his last. The Two Rivers people are famous for their stubbornness. Descendant from the great nation of Minetherin, they still keep many of these traits. Listen to the Fall of Minetherin if you have not. Many men of the Two Rivers are straight shots with bow and arrow, and they know enough to be dangerous with a quarterstaff. They're not prone to war. They're peaceful folk. But I suspect Tam would have adjusted quite well to the training and discipline of an army. He knew nothing of how to use the sword, but he soon mastered it. So he fought through the White Cloak War and 2 wars with Tia. Ilian and Tia, they are always at each other's throats, and his fortunes rose. His skill was recognized, and he was soon appointed into the ranks of the Companions. The Iliana Companions are elite shock troops that serve in the king's own personal guard. They're unique in that they allow foreigners to join their ranks, and Tam, being such a one, soon rose to become first captain, which is the highest rank attainable within the organization. There's an intriguing tale of an event that took place during this period, and it has to do with the heron-marked blade Tam came to possess. It is said that the king of Ilian himself gave him this blade. Intriguing. Heron-marked blades are the sign of a true blade master. A select few of them stretch back to the age of legends, weapons wrought with the one power to fight off the shadow. The one Tam came to possess was such a one, and he won it in single combat with a blade master. But he always regretted the event. It had to be done, he would say. This intrigues me. Was the blade master in question Tam's teacher, or someone he had come to know in the army, someone he had gotten close to? War is a terrible, terrible thing, and men must become terrible to wage it. You do things that you regret, things that make you question what you truly are. Are you a hero, a villain? Does it even matter? Whatever happened, this is certainly one of the events that would haunt Tam for the rest of his life. The wheel of time weaves as it wills, and sometimes darkness and light are woven together into patterns beyond our discernment. So it is that in this period of Tam's life, when he surely would have been feeling unmoored, he met Kari. Red-haired and grey-eyed, she was the daughter of an Andorran merchant who had set up shop in Ilion. Her parents were strongly opposed to the relationship, but they could do nothing to prevent it due to Tam's high position. So they two got married and were, I hope, happy for a time. Carrie got pregnant and soon gave birth to a girl, but their hearts were broken when the baby died in infancy. Carrie conceived once again, only for the baby to miscarry, and following this she could no longer bear children. It must have been a terrible thing to hear, but they found solace in each other's arms. In 976 NE, the nations of the Westlands were surprised when Aiel surged out of the waste and swarmed into Carrion, killing and pillaging at will. At first they dismissed the threat, but the severity of the situation was proved when Carrion was overrun and its topless towers burned. King Laman Damodred had fled, and he sought aid from the other sovereigns of the land. The nations west of the Dragon Wall came together, and they formed the Great Coalition. All the great captains were given command of the allied armies. The Iliana forces were dispatched to this fight under the command of Martin Stepanos den Balga, and Carrie decided to follow her husband to the war. The bloody struggle would last 2 years with heavy losses for their coalition. Many had underestimated the ability of the Aiel to wage war and the military brilliance of their leaders. And so the advantage of the Westlands in numbers hardly deterred the Aiel. The last battle of the Aiel War was fought within sight of Tavalon and will go down in history as the Battle of the Shining Walls. It was fought at the base of the Dragon Mount in the dead of winter, and the Aiel inexplicably decided to retreat after it was done. King Laman of Carrion was killed during that battle, but no one could discern why the Aiel had decided to retreat when they had the upper hand and could have swept through all of the Westlands. This mystery would remain unexplained for years to come. In the meantime, the Aiel held a deep disgust of the people of Carrion and labeled them trick killers. The Silk Road to the lands beyond the west was forever denied to the Carrion merchants, and the nation would struggle to get back to its feet. Something interesting had happened to Tam through the heat of battle. He'd come across an Aiel woman, one of the strange, deadly women who called themselves Fa Dereismai, Maidens of the Spear. She had been pregnant and had given birth to a child in the midst of blood and death. Tam had looked down at her and wondered at these strange people. Then, moved by either pity or compassion, he cut the child free, wrapped it in cloth, and carried it from the battlefield. He brought the babe to his wife, Carrie, and they decided to keep it. They'd spent years childless, denied that primal joy of parenthood, and now the will, by some strange design, had given them this fortune. In the morning, scouts announced that the Aiel were turning back. Alan Mandragoran and the Shainarans were following behind them to make sure, but it seemed as though the Aiel had decided to return to their waste. Some remarked on how strange this was, but many were simply exhausted, too exhausted to care. 2 years of war, and despite how the lords and captains spun the tale into a victory, everyone knew that they had been on the cusp of defeat. And so Tam looked down at the baby and at his wife, and then he came to a decision. He had danced with the Jack of the Shadows for too long. It was time to go home. So he resigned from the companions and made his way from Tavalon and back to the Two Rivers. Strange that even when the world itself had seemed on the brink of destruction, the Two Rivers had remained isolated and free. The shadow of the Aiel War had reached even this far, but the folk of Elmond's Field were busying themselves with the necessities of winter, unbothered by the troubles of the wider world. Tamlin and Carrie settled into this idyllic past, and Tam built his cottage further out from the town, at the edge of the westwood. As the years went by, he was assimilated into small town life, and when flashbacks to his fighting days came upon him, He dealt with them as best he could. Eventually, he made some sort of peace with his past as a mark of his new life, and at the urging of Kari, he locked away his heron-marked blade into a chest and set it beneath their bed. The fact that he kept the blade so close was a sign of his practical outlook on life. He might never need the blade, but best to have it close should the need ever arise. He made friends with the men of Elmond's Field and became quite close with Master Alvia, who was mayor of the town. Many in the Two Rivers soon came to admire Tam's solid presence, steady and unmovable, and so he was appointed into the village council. He was often the voice of reason when things became too tangled, too heated.